Welcome back to Tad Talk Sustainability, where every week I sit down with my dad and sustainability expert, Tad Radzinski, to ask him questions about sustainability topics. So, we're seeing a lot more activity around circularity and the circular economy. I know that you did a TEDx talk back in 2014 about this topic. Can you explain what is circularity?
Yes, as you know, we just recently did our life cycle assessment podcast. We talked about the fact that as a society, we think about everything we use, every product from cradle to grave. So basically, what we have is what we call a take, make, waste system. So we take raw materials out of the earth and out of the forest and everything, and we make products. And when we make those products, we're basically creating impacts, emissions. We're using energy. There's a lot that goes into making the everyday products that we use every day, and the majority of those products are not designed for long-term use. So we basically make these things and then we dispose of them in a landfill. And think about it. Even with our cell phones and all of our electronics, they're not really designed to be just reused. I mean, how long does a cell phone last, right? And then even though that we're now doing a better job of recycling those, we're not recovering a lot of the materials. So we're still losing lots of materials. And we have to realize that on this planet, we're in an exponential growth phase with people. There's just more and more people, and many of those people are moving into a stage where they have, their economies are growing. They're moving from kind of into more of a middle class lifestyle where they can all live like we want to live. We all have these great things, nice homes to live in, cars to drive, all the electronics and everything we have. So the thinking is that if we try to keep providing all these materials and products and resources and everything to a massively growing population who has a lot more buying power, it's not going to be sustainable to keep the take make waste system where we basically just make these things and we throw all of this stuff away. Okay. And one thing to remember is on this planet, there is no way. So what circularity is all about is thinking, all right, how do we take something that we make and how do we either extend the life of it, make it more durable, more useful, repairable, or how do we recover the materials that went into the product and turn it back into the same or similar product?
Mm-hmm.
So that is what circularity or the closed loop or circular economy is really about, is knowing that there's all these resources that are required to make these products, and we're eventually going to run out of some of them. Okay, so that's a simple way of saying it.
Yeah. And do you think the circular economy is something we actually can achieve?
I do actually, and I think it really starts with the way you design products. Okay, so one thing that we have done a lot of work with, just like when we do life cycle assessment, once we do life cycle assessment, we can understand the impacts of a product from the early stages, like the raw materials that we extract or use to make the product. I think in our life cycle podcast, we used paper, right? So we talked about paper. So you start out with paper or a tree. You got to harvest the tree and do all that kind of thing. But by doing the life cycle assessment, we then understand where the impacts are occurring. And one thing that every company does is they do a thing where they have a new product development process or a next generation product development process, whatever you want to call it. And they use a system called stage gate. And in stage gate, there's a series of stages of things you do. And then there's a gate where you get management approval to move on to the next stage. So when they're doing these things, if we can get them these new product development teams that are comprised of research and design people or research and development people, engineers, marketing people, like there's a whole group of people that work on this. If we could get them thinking about sustainability in the beginning of their lives of designing these products or the next generation product through a process we call sustainable product innovation, then that would definitely get them to be thinking more about this. And that's where you embed that circularity thinking, using life cycle thinking, but also sustainability aspects. And then saying, all right, we make this product, let's even if you think about, say, a washer. Okay, all we want is we want our clothes to get clean. We're going to use that washer, but over time the washer eventually breaks down, or you can no longer repair it, and we end up disposing of that. It goes off to a scrapyard, and some of the materials get recovered. If there was a process in that washing machine where the new product development team was really looking at it and all the materials that went in there, perhaps they would understand what usually breaks down on this washing machine, and can we design like a system where you can just put a new next generation circuit board in, or if we find out that the motor is going bad, or there's like a drive on it, are there things that we could just automatically plug and play? And that's where repair, back in the day, people used to call the repairman to come and fix everything. Mm-hmm. Now we just throw everything away, right? So that's where this whole new product development process, if you use sustainable product innovation, you'd start thinking about durability, reusability, modularity, the ability to disassemble something and turn it back into itself. Like, those are the kind of concepts you want to be thinking about.
Mm-hmm. Is it possible to have a product that is 100% closed loop?
Yes, it is. And I use this example a lot. And I always say, all right, when I'm teaching or if I'm speaking to an audience, I say, what is the most circular product or closed loop product that you can think of? And everybody's like aluminum and, cans and plastic bottles, and sort of, right? Aluminum cans, definitely. Aluminum is a highly recyclable and recoverable material. Now, if you could definitely get all those aluminum cans back and turn them into beverage containers again, that's really good, right? So that is one. But believe it or not, one of the most circular products right now is actually the automotive battery.
Wow.
The lead acid battery that is sitting in all of our vehicles at this point, unless you own an electric vehicle, that battery, many of the battery manufacturers have perfected a system where they bring the batteries back and they can basically break them apart. They can recover all the plastic, which is polypropylene. That's why batteries a lot of them are black, because if they just recover the polypropylene, they can basically make a brand new case out of it. They recover all the lead out of it, and they recover the acid out of it. Then they do have to add some virgin materials. Mm-hmm. But most batteries are going into the battery place. The manufacturer, they're breaking them apart, recovering the acid, the lead, and then they're making it into a brand new battery. Mm-hmm. So that is possible. And there are other things. I mean, think about if you have something that's made out of metal, if you can definitely make sure you're segregating that metal and recovering it, like an automobile. Huge percentage of an automobile is made out of steel or aluminum or zinc or other things. There are definitely ways we can do that. So we do have the technology. And what it comes down to is prices and commodity costs and this and that. And, but we are seeing a huge movement now on driving recycling. And I want to be very clear here. People think about circular, they instantly think it's only recycling. It's a lot more to that. Mm-hmm. It could be designing for reuse, or it could be designing for next life. Like, think about your closet. How many clothes do you have in your closet?
A lot. Too many.
Do you ever wear them out? Rarely. People don't really wear out clothes.
And by wear out, you mean not wear them outside. You mean like wear them till they get holes in them and they can't
wear
be
them
worn.
till they're kind of really not respectable to wear. Let's just say that, because they're so destroyed. Mm-hmm. That really rarely happens. But what happens is we have these giant closets full of clothes, and we finally get tired of them. Mm-hmm. So then we donate them. Now, in the ideal world, if we're donating those clothes, that's next life sales or next life donation, where another person could take them. And I would imagine that many of the clothes in my own closet are in pristine, beautiful condition. They've only been worn a few times. Mm-hmm. That's an example of circular economy too. Giving it to other people, letting them extend the life that way, or even the sharing economy.
Okay. So what changes really need to be made in order to achieve circular economy on a large scale?
On a large scale, it's going to definitely take a massive shift in the way companies design products. Okay, they're going to have to really start thinking about this early in the design stages. I do think that it's going to be really important to create the infrastructure to recover these materials and identify them and track them. Okay, so one of the issues that you have is a lot of products we make are like mixed materials. Like if you have a multi-layer plastic or whatever, if you don't know what those plastic resins are, you can't easily separate them. So thinking about how to design better, but also knowing what are the materials that are being used in the products, and then allowing for a plan on how you kind of identify them, and then they can be segregated, separated, and recovered.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of how we could do that. And then also, I think getting companies, getting government agencies to really put some emphasis on this, and maybe, just like they provide incentives to drive, like there's definitely, tariffs out there, there's definitely incentives. I think there has to be some incentives to get companies to think about putting more value on the recovery of the materials, designing products to be longer life. So some type of government incentives or even consumer request.
Mm.
Okay. And a good example of this I'll talk about is Patagonia. I have a pair of cross country ski pants that I wear that I had since I've been probably 16 or 17 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And Patagonia has that system where you buy that product and then they will actually repair it. So these ski pants, I was skiing one day and I went through some, uh, you know, pickers and thorns, and it basically tore my pants. So I was able to ship them back to Patagonia. They repaired them and sent them back to me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another example of let's extend the life by doing repair and reuse and recovery. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this is just a quick overview, and we can always dive into this topic even more. But I think this was a great preliminary episode on circularity.
yeah, I'm looking forward to how we can expand upon this. And one thing that I think we might want to dive into a little deeper on another episode is the sustainable product innovation process.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what does that really mean? How does a company utilize it? And maybe even just talk a little bit about some of the activities that are happening in different countries in terms of, you have right now the requirement to understand embodied carbon in products.
Mm-hmm.
You have requirements in Europe, the Green Deal is going to drive circular economy in a big way. And that might be something we could explore a little more in another session
Mm-hmm.
where we talk about that on what's going on in Europe, and then how is that filtering down. I just came back from the Circularity conference, and it was a really great conference. There was about 800 or 900 people there, which is pretty good after COVID, and a lot of great topics. And I even know like many of the big companies are actually assigning people that are going to be responsible for the circularity or the circular aspects of their products. For example, I know DuPont now has a person that's doing that. Saint-Gobain Certainteed has a person that's dedicated to it. We're seeing automotive companies that are doing things around this. And, there's a lot more we can talk about on this. So it's
Yeah,
exciting.
it is super exciting. It's so much opportunity. And just thank you so much for diving into this. And we will see you all in our next episode.